that pussy. Live in the building. I'll dance by my damn self. You ready?
Well, thank you. Today's episode is going to be entitled Boots on the Ground, Rooted in Breastfeeding Success, Grounded in Community Support. Oh, welcome to a special episode of our podcast in honor of Black Breastfeeding Week. I'm your host, Amina Francois, one of the care coordinators with Healthy Start San Bernardino. And today we're diving into the powerful and nourishing conversation entitled Boots on the Ground, Rooted in Breastfeeding Success, Grounded in Community Support. This episode is dedicated to uplifting our community, sharing truths, and celebrating the resilience of and beauty of Black breastfeeding traditions. Black Breastfeeding Week is more than a celebration. It's a call to action. It's a time to honor the legacy of our ancestors, confront the barriers that persist, and spotlight the breakthroughs and advocacy that are shaping a healthier future for Black mothers and babies. Today, we're joined by a phenomenal guest speaker, Jasmine Creighton, CEO of Yaya's Hands. She's a lactivist, certified breastfeeding specialist, doula, mother, maternal health advocate, passionate about birth and lactation, who is on her way to becoming an IBCLC. She brings a vast amount of lived experience and just expertise, and I'm super excited to sit here with you today as we dive into the cultural, historical, and health dimensions of Black breastfeeding. Welcome, Jasmine.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here, and this is actually my first time on a podcast. So, thank you all for having that special role.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, we're honored to have you. So let's start by sharing a little bit about your journey and what led you to this work.
Yeah. As you mentioned, I am a mother of two. I have a 11-year-old son and a 4.5-year-old daughter. And like many of us, they are my why and how I arrived to this. In for over 11 years, that means I would have been a peer support, lactation, or just maternal health advocate, to my community, friends, family. And so with my son, I had a phenomenal experience. My husband and I did all the things. We did all the classes, Bradley Birth, Bradley Method. He got his coach card from that class. He still carries it in his wallet to this day. We read books. We did all the things that, we felt like we needed to do as first-time parents. And so it was a really amazing experience. I joined a mom group. It was called the Cleavage Club here in the Inland Empire. It was led by an IBCLC, so that was the first encounter that I had with someone with those credentials. I didn't even really know back then really what that meant, and what I knew that person had a unique amount of experience and credentials, but I went to the Cleavage Club because it was such an amazing community to be with other moms with little ones and be able to bring my kid and have fun and do different things. And so even in the hospital, amazing. We gave birth to him at Pomona Valley Hospital, and it was a great experience. We wanted to go the home birth route, but as the first time, we kind of we kind of punked out a little bit. It's a lot to consider, on the first try, and so I just opted to have that natural birth instead, and it was great. I had a Black nurse that was there for me in postpartum, and I just remember her saying to me, like, "I got you. I'll be here. I'm going home, but I'll come and check on you the first moment I'm back on shift," and she did, and I'll never forget that. And so even in the hospital, I had that community experience, and I had that cultural experience of someone that looked like me, that I knew held me, cared for me, and I felt safe, even in being in a hospital environment. And so fast forward to my daughter being born right around COVID. We don't call her a COVID baby. That's the trigger for me. But she was born around that time, and I had a completely different experience than with my son, right? So my son, I had community, I had sisterhood, I had the experience of being surrounded by family, being out and about, taking him to mommy and me classes. And with my daughter, it was like the world is shut down. It's the four of us. So everything that I knew from the first was essentially kind of stripped away. So even family members were just super scared to visit me. We weren't sure, I opted for a home birth because at that time the hospitals were closing, and we didn't know if my husband could be in the hospital with me, if I would have to deliver with a mask. I've had asthma since birth, and so it was so many unknowns that we were like, this is it. If there's any time to give home birth a try, it's now. And so we sought out a Black midwife who, was able and willing to travel to us in the Inland Empire in Banning, where we live. And that was an even more phenomenal experience. My son was there. My husband, got to deliver the baby. We were at home in a water birth, so beautiful experience, right? And so I had to learn to seek community virtually online. And so that is where a lot of the connections that I still have today started out as friendships and then blossomed into like now we're peers in this work. And so my journey is because of them. It's I set out to just be a support to other families and individuals who want to, either give birth or breastfeed or pump, however they want to feed their baby. And so I'm here to just be a support and a guide and to help families have the best experience that they can have and for the journey that they want and desire. And so, yeah.
Wow, what a powerful introduction. And you and I actually met in those
Mhm.
Instagram streets,
Yes.
right? I followed your work online after the pandemic, after the shutdown, right? Pandemic as well. So that's how I became familiar with you and your work. Um, and so that was great. So let's talk a little bit about the legacy of Black breastfeeding. Just share a little bit about some of the historic and cultural traditions that have shaped this practice in our communities. And these are things that you have personally experienced, but then also you've touched the lives of so many families. And I'm going to say, adding to your bio, as you didn't mention this piece, you also support us professionally, right, in the community and trying to give resources and guide people who are on a similar journey. So maybe some of those stories came by way of the professional lives that you touch. So can you share a little bit about that, those practices or historical traditions that have shaped the breastfeeding practices in our communities?
Yeah, that's such a loaded question. I think I'm still, to be honest, I think I'm still learning what all we endured, historically, and how that plays a factor in our lives today. Um, I'll to be transparent, a lot of it I actually didn't learn myself until I started taking, different lactation trainings. And it was because of those trainings, right, that were Black led, that I learned about, the history and how formula was dispersed in our community, and, how it started with, pet milk, which is evaporated milk. And, it's a whole story. I don't want to do it. I don't want to butcher the story or make an injustice, but I do encourage anyone who's listening to this to go and look up the history with, formula feeding in the Black community, because it did start with, a doctor adopting a set of Black twins and um, basically created a campaign around formula. And at the time, the formula was evaporated milk, and it was from a company called Nestle. And so they, created salesmen to go door to door to try to sell that milk to showcase that at the time, it's healthier than, breast milk. And so what does that do, right? It creates this marketing scheme to make you believe that what you have is not as valuable as what can be bought. And so breastfeeding rates start to decline, right? Um, and of course, again, I encourage you to go and do the research and look up that story for yourself, because there's way more details that go into it. And as I said, I'm still someone that's learning myself. But in addition to that, we think about slavery and how there was wet nurses and how they were forced. I literally learned this in today's Monday, so last week, I think it was Friday, I learned that in slavery, there was a breast assigned to, someone's child, and then the other breast was assigned to their master, and they would oftentimes assign, of course, the breast that's producing more milk to, their master's child. And so that just broke my heart, because if your child needs milk and you're, struggling, and the site that's producing has to be given away, it's where does that leave your own child? Oftentimes it left them malnourished, if they even made it at all. And so that broke my heart to learn that information. And that was
Absolutely.
something that I learned as of Friday, August
Yeah.
2025.
Yeah.
So just things like that, I'm still learning and uncovering. And again, I might not be the expert in that information, but what little I do know, I try to share and continue to keep learning. And so um, because of all of that, it's still generational trauma. It's still generational triggers that we're dealing with, and things like that are passed down. And so what we see now is there are still, elders, maybe grandmothers or aunts that feel some kind of way about breastfeeding, because they didn't have the autonomy that we have today over our bodies. I know through my own experience, I am, from what I know, the first in my family, both my family and my husband's, to breastfeed and put the baby at the breast, and to be able to do that for any length of time. And what I was told from my elders is that they were not given a choice. They had their baby and they put a bottle in their hands with formula and was like, "This is how you feed your baby." They breast milk breastfeeding wasn't even an option for them, or they felt like it wasn't an option because it wasn't discussed with them. They weren't given that informed education to make that decision.
Yep.
And so we're still battling that today. And more recently, a few years ago when I was new as a perinatal health specialist, leading a support group, someone came to me and she really wanted to breastfeed and the husband was against it. And as we kind of just kept having this conversation and trying to figure out, like, okay, well, why is it, like, I'm giving you all the benefits of breastfeeding, all the benefits of breast milk for you, I'm sorry, for the baby, breastfeeding for you, like, you know just
Yeah.
trying to uncover it. And we realized it's only because the husband was fed breast formula because his mom did that. His mom fed, him and his siblings with formula, and they just thought that's what was best. So sometimes it's also about just holding space for someone and just being that shoulder and that ear that they can come to and talk to you about it. Because a lot of times, when I was a newbie lactation professional, I was so quick to try to like fix the problem. Like, what's the problem? Let's give you a solution. Let's fix it. And sometimes it's not even, yes, there may be something going on with the body or the baby, but oftentimes it's misinformation or it's just education that's needed for the parents or for the grandparents or for their support system, right? And so now I'm actually very slow to try to give a solution because I want to make sure that I'm really, really listening to them and being that voice of support, voice of education, because we find that it might just be something as like the family doesn't see it as ideal or doesn't think it's important, right? So
Right.
um, yeah, I think that's some of the things that we see. We're also still dealing with, we're still dealing with marketing,
Absolutely.
formula companies, being predatory, and still we even using celebrities to showcase and highlight, formula and um, just these anti-human milk breastfeeding campaigns. And so I think that's still some of the things that we're dealing with, right? And so it's the same things but just different shapes and different shifts that we're seeing. So a lot of that. And then we have social media. They're glamorizing all the gadgets and gadgets and gizmos and the different things that exist, right? And I'm like, we really don't need all of that. We just need a breast and a baby, or a pump and a baby, or your hands and you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I think we've gotten so far from just what's natural to like, what can we buy? What can we do? And, unless you have extreme cases, oftentimes, you just need you and your baby. So,
Yes. I love that you said that because so much of that is also things that I've learned as a professional as well. I just knew, just like you, that I was the first in my family to, at least on my side, my husband's side, they I did have an extreme amount of support, right, in terms of that being something I wanted to do because they had experienced success with that. But for my family, um, my grandmother, she just like she said, formula was the go-to. My mother was told, she had large breasts, and so there was not an option for her to breastfeed us. And so, like you sought out all the education, the support. I love that you kind of wrapped up everything to reinforce the idea that we have everything we need. If you have, like you said, the very simplistic baby breast, pump baby, right? All the things, all the extra things that come with it are nice. But the most important thing will be the support, which is what I heard. Support and education. So I
absolutely.
love that. I
What were your
love that you.
thoughts? Did you get any, feedback about wanting to nurse, or was it just all positive for you?
So no, it was. I mean, originally it was. Well, I can't help you with that, right? I mean, it was like, well, I want to help you with that, but I can't help
Right.
you with that. And then even in my social circle, um, we all had children around the same age, and no one had actually had anyone close to them have had that success. And so it literally was like you going to the books. And for me, it was Lactation League that was in my local area that provided the support for me. Um, and then once I got on, like once I was successful, I was like telling everyone. And then, of course, I did get a little bit of the pushback from the family about like, how long are you going to breastfeed? And I'm like, well, we just got here, right?
Right.
We should be celebrating
Right.
for generationally, we should be celebrating the success. So it was interesting. It's so I understand too. Like when you're working with families, um, they carry a lot. They carry a lot. Even when it is their desire, there's a lot of factors that can influence whether or not they're successful. So yeah, for me, I had a little bit of a mixed bag. And at one point, I decided, I'm going to do what I need to do for me. And thank you so much for your unsolicited advice or whatever. You learn that right as you go
Exactly.
through the process. So I love that.
Yeah, and that actually triggered another thought. I know you wanted me to touch on the professional side of it. And so
Mm,
I set out to support families, dyads, individuals with nursing, and then what I've come to find out is like there's a lot of advocacy needed as a professional, and so I am a board member for the Inland Empire Breastfeeding Coalition as well as the California Breastfeeding Coalition, and with the Inland Empire Breastfeeding Coalition, excuse me, I started the Black Breastfeeding Task Force, and so we meet once a month. We come together, we hold community for one another, we talk about the different lactation pathways. As if you want to pursue the IBCLC, the International Board Certified Lactation Consultant, which is like
mm,
the highest credential you can get in lactation. It's the golden standard, right? But we also talk about the other lactation certifications that exist because not everyone's going to want to go as high as the IBCLC. And so through my own journey is how the task force was started because I realized I had the experience as a professional in helping, families, but I didn't have that credential. So it's the equivalent of, working at a job all of these years, but you can't move up because you don't have the degree. And so I was like, okay, I'll give in. I'll go and get it. I'm applying. They like me. People know me. They're becoming to know me, but that's holding me back. So you set out on this long journey, but what happens? It's expensive. It's time consuming. It's difficult to understand. The organization that is over it is not the easiest to be in communication with or understand what they're putting out. And so, out of my own frustrations and journey, is how I started that. And so, it's a place where I can just try to help someone else to have an easier foundation or way, to navigate through. I try to source scholarships. I try to, you know, um, give you whatever knowledge that I have and what I've been through to help make your journey just a bit softer if I can, right? So, and also I would love to. I think my goal with it is just how can I now like move it more into more advocacy, because what I'm finding is there's the IBCLC and then there's the CLC Certified Lactation. Is it counselor, consultant,
counselor.
counselor?
Counselor.
Yeah, CLC. Those are like the only two credentials that are recognized by insurances. And so if you don't have either of those, you cannot get credentialed with, managed care plans to be able to take insurance to serve families. And so we're doing all of these hours for all of these other organizations, but they're not as
County.
recognized or they don't count like the CLC. And that's disheartening, as someone that has
Right.
like I have 205 plus hours certifications and I can't get in network with any insurance providers. And that's a disservice to families, right? Not everybody has
Absolutely.
That's a barrier. Not everyone has the money to pay out of pocket to see a lactation professional. And so, it's like, how can we move the needle on that? Like, who do we have to talk to? Who do we have to, put our boots on the ground for and show up
Yes.
and advocate? So that's just some other things that I've kind of been like twirling around in my head.
Yeah, that's all amazing, and it's kind of leading us right into the next question, which is barriers, and we talked a little bit about it. So you can feel free to reiterate anything you've already said, but what are some of the challenges that Black mothers face when it comes to breastfeeding?
Wow. For mothers, I would say is having support or maybe having access to support rather. Having access to support by someone that looks like them from their community. maybe being in person. You know, a lot of people. I met someone the other day, and they were just like, "Oh, I want support, but it's always online. I want someone in
Mhm.
person." And I'm just like, "Okay, okay, like let's try to find that person for you, even if it can't be me." So I think those are barriers. Again, the cost, right? If your insurance doesn't cover it, can you pay that out of pocket cost? And um, you know, uh, I'll be honest, like I don't know if it's seen as a priority or necessity just quite yet. I think we're all professionals trying to push it there, but
Yep.
we're still working on that. And so, um, are they able to even get the time to see the professional? A lot of people have to return back to work. So
Right.
it's a lot. It's a lot. And then what happens? Is it a? I tell people all the time, it's a long term relationship, right? Like it's you don't start just after a postpartum, and once if you have an issue or you have a question, you get that answered and you just stop going. Like no, they're with you throughout the whole journey. Introducing solid foods, weaning, so it's like a long-term relationship. And so just finding someone that they can trust and build that rapport with and be able to establish a trustworthy relationship is what I think are some of the barriers. And then lastly, of course, I know everybody's probably tired of hearing it, but social media. um, I went
Yep.
to an event on Friday and we were talking about, social media and pumping and I'm telling people like that's really good the amount that you're getting and they're not believing it. And it's because we have influencers that are showing ridiculous amounts or maybe that is the amount that they're making. We don't know, right?
Yes.
It could be social media magic or it could be real. We don't know.
Yep.
But I'm saying like don't compare yourself to someone else's journey. But that's another thing too. I think it's a little deflating, right? To try to be on your own journey and then like you log online and someone's showing like a stash of milk and
Yep.
all this, and
Yep.
so
Yeah. It makes you feel like, well, what am I doing wrong? Right. So
exactly,
yeah, and those things can definitely,
yeah,
throw a monkey wrench in your own journey and your happiness, right? In your feeling of satisfaction. Um, so definitely with those challenges, what are some breakthroughs you're seeing? What gives you hope as you continue to do the work every single day, right? Just
yeah.
knowing all the barriers, like what gives you hope?
I think all of us that are showing up and doing this work, collaborations, partnerships, you know, um, we're deep in the IE. We have Black Infant Health, we have Sankofa Birth Worker Collectives, we have global communities, we have um, just all of the resources available, and we're just really trying to disseminate that information to as many people as possible. And so there is support, and I think it's just making sure people are aware of that and they have access to it. So that brings me hope, and like seeing trainings popping up and more people are going and they're filling up. I think that's amazing. That
That
means there's
is
more
amazing.
people out there that want to do the work and that are, willing to. Um, it's a steady stream of new professionals coming in, and I think that that's exciting and it brings optimism because we know like okay, there's more people coming in to do this work, and I would say like I don't want to say resurgence, but returning back to something that was natural, right? Like nursing or having your baby at the breast. And so getting people, seeing more and more people coming forward about wanting to do it. And I tell people, like, for me, I'm the type of professional, I will support you whatever your goals look like, right? Like if you're like, I just want to give them colostrum, hey, like that's a great foundation. Let's get
Yep,
this baby colostrum,
absolutely.
you know, and
Absolutely. Absolutely.
we'll take it step
Yep.
by step from there. But so just I think seeing more, more parents, more moms and individuals wanting to provide human milk, I think is like, okay, cool. Like I still can, there's somebody out there that I can still help, and that looks like whatever it needs to look like for you. Having the baby at the breast, pumping, hand expressing, whatever that looks like. So I think it's exciting to um, just see that and then seeing different. So I'll give something positive about social media.
Yep. Yep. Because there are some
There
positives,
are some
right?
positives,
Yes.
right? So seeing my colleagues that are in this work, posting educational videos and meeting people where they are. So we know like people are excited about TikTok and IG and all of that. And so having those educational videos and content available for them, ready to go. And then also like being able to get support. It might, even if it can't be in your own community, like you still have access via telehealth. And that's huge. So I think
Huge.
that's a win. So Yeah, those are some of the things that make it super exciting. I'm not on TikTok, but there are really great people who are. So,
Yeah, same,
so
same.
yeah, like I don't have the capacity
Um,
for nothing else right now.
right, right. I know. Who knows? One day, right? We may get
Eh,
there, but for
maybe.
now, we people are holding it down, and we
Yeah,
appreciate them for
yeah,
it.
exactly.
So, okay, so we're gonna switch a little bit to what we consider like the myth busting segment. Okay, and this is fun because we talked already about some of the barriers that can prevent people from even, while they're pregnant, considering the fact that they might breastfeed or not, right? At least in our program, I'm asking my prenatal program participants about their wishes and their goals. How do you prepare? How are you planning on feeding your baby once, after birth? And some of them are like, I don't know, right? And so that's a great opportunity for us to provide the education, which you just talked about. But then some of them are like, oh, no, no, absolutely not. And then they'll give you a litany of like reasons why. And the whole time you're sitting there thinking, okay, well, that's something to come back to because you just hear a lot of myths, right? That they've maybe heard generationally in their family, or just like you said, watch something online, got that information. So let's go through a few common ones,
Okay.
and let's just tackle some misconceptions about breastfeeding in the Black community. Myth number one: Black women don't breastfeed. This
Man,
whole
yeah,
right.
that's a myth. That's a myth. I mean, we kind of talked about the historical things we've had to deal with, but I mean, there's two black women right here, me and you.
Right
So
here. Absolutely,
we can't.
absolutely.
We might not have the numbers, but like, hey, we bursted that myth between the two of us. But
Yep.
we are out here. We are. We've never left. You know, black women breastfeed. We do it. We're doing it because we want to. We made the decision to. It's not something that you know we we're not settling for it. It's because we know it's the best and
Yes.
it's ideal and we want to. And it is part of that. Being able to have that bonding experience in that relationship and mostly like I want to give my baby the best. Honestly, breastfeeding for me too is just like I don't have to do anything but lift my shirt up and here you go.
There you go.
you know,
There you
so
go. Comfort,
comfort,
nutrition, all the things.
nutrition,
Bonding. Yep.
yes. And another part of that is just like it was also it didn't cost us anything, right? It was cost saving. Um
Absolutely.
So, and I like that. I like not being able to uh, get up and have to make a. My husband really enjoyed it. He didn't. He enjoyed not having to clean bottles and all of that. And so for us, again, this is what worked for us. It was nice to not have to have that whole other side and think about it. So, and my babies went everywhere. I did not stop life because I was nursing. They were at the beach. They were at weddings. They went everywhere. Um, and nursed for as long as we could, and they are still the most independent kids ever. So I'm a great example of you cannot spoil your child. You know,
Absolutely.
but you
Absolutely. And I'm
did. So,
sure,
mhm,
and that might be on the list of myths that we
mhm.
get to.
Okay, okay,
That
okay,
piece.
okay.
Yeah, it might be. No, it's not. It's not. I just looked. It's actually not.
Yes,
But
but
that is
yes,
a common one. So I love
that's
that
a
you addressed it. Um, so, oh, okay. So myth number two: formula is just as good as breast milk.
No, it still has not come close. They can't. It's impossible to identify everything that exists within human milk and be able to replicate that. Even if they feel like they're coming close, it's not possible, right? Like we know that your milk also transitions according to the baby's needs and ages and they just age and growth milestones, and so you can't really replicate something like that. Now, it is a wonderful, wonderful resource for those who need it, especially, children who are, you know, with illness or, um, issues at birth. It has a place. And so I think it's one of those things like we don't want to demonize it, but we want to make sure that we are educating our families on how to use it properly, when to
Absolutely.
use it, and I mean, if somebody chooses that, that's their child, and that's okay too. And so now we just make sure that they have proper guidance on how to use it and store it and all of these things, right? So
Yep. Love that. Love that. Because, like you said, there's a place for it. We just want to make sure that people are fully educated around it. Okay. Last myth we're going to cover today is you can't breastfeed or you have to discontinue breastfeeding if you're going back to work.
Absolutely not. I think this is where it's a great opportunity for you to tap into your local resource, right? As a lactation professional, IBCOC, they will work with you to put together a plan. Sometimes there's parents that work from home. Sometimes, it depends. It just all depends on the individual's goals, right? Like, are you home and you want to nurse the baby directly, or are you going to be away? You need a pumping plan. And so, life, again, I just talked about all the things that I did, with nursing a baby. And like, there's a time I had to go away to, training out of the state for like a week, and so it's I had to pump and leave milk, and so um, absolutely you can have a life and be able to return to work. But I fully encourage you to seek out support so that you don't have to stress about like, oh, how much milk do I need to store. I
Right.
think you know we all freak out and think like we need this huge stockpile of milk, and that's not the case. It's way less than probably what you're thinking. And so to have some support and have a plan created for you that's customized for your work schedule takes so much stress off of you. And just that assurance that like you can do this, this is how you do it. This is when you pump, you know, um, it's just, I can't say enough about it, but you can definitely return to work and still successfully, provide milk for your child.
Absolutely. I love that. And this is a big one too, because like you talked about the feedback or you asked me about the feedback that I got. So we got into a groove with our first. I was like, we are doing this, but then 3 months in, I had to prepare to go back to work. And I thought like my entire structure, I was a caseworker. And so doing home visits.
Mm.
And so I was like, I needed a plan. Right. And so that was where my support, and it was through La Leche League, actually kind of helped me craft an idea of like, well, number one, identifying a pump because I didn't have a pump at the time because I was home with the baby, and I got a mobile pump, so I was like, we
Great.
figured it out,
Yep.
figured it out. I had those trifold
Hmm.
uh, science project boards.
Yes.
I mean, I would literally show up at my appointments. I mean, not be in front of the family's
Right,
house, but
right.
like around the corner or, at a park. I would have the trifold up and I would pump. You know what I mean? Have my little refrigerator, my little cooler for my milk. It's important to, like you talked about, become educated in like the laws that you have and the rights you have in terms of being a breastfeeding or a person who's or lactating person,
Hmm.
right? At
Hmm.
work, there's
Yep.
laws that
Yeah.
allow you to have time to pump when you need to. So there's all those things that allow me to be able to still continue my journey even though I went back to work. So I love that you addressed that so beautifully.
Yeah, and I actually that was something I was going to bring up too, and I'm glad you touched on it regarding the workplace accommodation. Like I tell people, what do you do to go back to work? Okay, we have some weeks. Check in with HR, like figure
Mhm.
out what their policies are regarding workplace accommodation. One, you want to make sure that they're not doing anything shady, but two, like you need
Absolutely.
to be aware. I mean, it exists, but you need to
Yep.
be aware of like your rights and like you said, the laws surrounding that, and like where you should be able to express your milk and be able to store it, and knowing that like it should not be a bathroom. It
Right.
should have running water. You should have a locked door. So all of those things are super important. And so that if you don't have it, then it's like we need to advocate to make sure you do have it, right? Are you getting paid? Or are you not getting paid? So just all of these different
Hmm.
nuances that you want to be aware of before you go back to work, because the more you know and the more you can do before you go, it helps to
Stress.
exactly minimize,
Yep.
decrease, maybe hopefully eliminate that stress. And
Yep.
because it's already enough, like who you're already preparing to go back to work, you gotta leave your cute little baby, and so like there's
I
yeah,
know.
like you get those feelings, and so it's just like how can we help to minimize that stress and have a smoother transition. So lactation professional can help you put together all of that and just use your resources. You don't have to be out here by
Yeah.
yourself.
Right. Awesome. And I love that your statements take us nicely into the next question because
Oh,
now we're
nice.
talking solutions, right?
Okay. Hmm.
So as we've already touched on it there, you had support, some of which were in your family, some were in the community. This part, I wanted to talk a little bit about some amazing resources and organizations, highlight them, give them a shout out. We'll do that in the post as well. Um, some of the ones that are are literally boots on the ground, have their boots on the ground, that you would like to share, and then I can add on some additional ones.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, this is a call out, but I'm definitely gonna provide some in print, just in case I forget anyone here. But
Yes, same.
we absolutely, absolutely have to give it to Black Infant Health. I think they have been in the community, doing the work, providing resources to families, amazing programming, and just group support. There's also Sankofa Birth Worker Collective is made up of every type of professional that you can even think of. And so, as a individual, you can go to the website and be able to have access and see, I mean, we got pelvic floor therapists, we have doulas, we have lactation professionals, we got regular, like, it's literally
Cool.
concierge
Yeah.
for birth work. Right. And then also my favorite is Postpartum Support International, because we need that mental health support. Like, it's vital. I don't think we talk enough about it. I'm trying to pursue trainings, to better support families with it. But even now, my kids at their big age, I still, and not just for them, just life in general. Like, I will hop on Instagram or whatever, and I'll see a Postpartum Support International page, excuse me, post, and I'm like, I needed this message today, But
Yep.
they have support groups for however you may identify. They have support groups for that are virtual and that are free. They have, what is it called? They have a support line that you can call into. So I think that's important. There's also the Sister Connection, that you can call into and get support. We have the Loving Hotline. We have Global Communities, who is also, in the community offering support groups, midwives available, to give you hands-on support or just, check-ins. There's also individual providers, right? Like, way too many to name. So that's going back to like
Yep.
the collective. But
Yep.
we're all out here, providing resources and giving support. I mean, I would throw the coalition in there, but we're more focused on professionals. So if you're a professional looking for um, education, CEUs, there's always, Inland Empire Breastfeeding Coalition. Who else? I got to give a shout out to our neighbors, Breastfeed LA. They're doing a good
Yes.
work. They have a lot of
Absolutely.
programmings coming up, even in the OC.
Yeah. And we like, I know I was trained. All my lactation
Oh,
education
nice.
came from them, and a lot of
Okay.
other
Mm-hmm.
professionals I've met as well. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, you hit most of the. I mean, we talked a little bit about. You mentioned Sister Connection, which is associated with WIC, right? Because I also want to highlight the
Yes.
WIC. I did have the coalition on the list, but I'm glad you clarified a little bit. I mean, they're
Mm-hmm.
definitely doing the work, but from the professional side
Absolutely.
of things, which is great. Um, and yeah, I mean, this is the things that make the difference, right? We talked a little bit about the local
Right.
organizations. I also wanted to throw out Maternal Health Network of San
Mhm.
Bernardino.
Yes.
Is that what they say? Yes. Okay. County. They have also a list of providers that of all sorts, right? Perinatal providers for people to consider, and then larger organizations might be, Rose reaching
Yeah.
our sisters everywhere, and Black Mothers Breastfeeding Association as well. We want to highlight. And as Jasmine mentioned, there's so many more individuals that are out here in the streets, right, doing the work. So we're going to be tagging as many of those organizations as possible in the post associated with um, the uh, the podcast once it is shared with our community. So yeah, we encourage our listeners to connect with these groups, share their stories, and support one another, because who better to give support than someone who's already been in the receiving seat, right, of support, and knowing how powerful that can be. Um, so as we wrap up, we want to thank you, Jasmine and Creighton, for sharing your wisdom and your heart with us today. Like I said, I know you outside of the screens. I know that there's a passion that pushes you to the work that you're doing on a regular basis for the community, for professionals. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about what the work that you're doing, or get some support from you directly? How might they find
Yeah, it's pretty simple. My
you?
website is my name, JasmineCreighton.com. You can also find me on Instagram, Jasmine Creighton, and LinkedIn, Jasmine Creighton. So made it super simple for you all. And, we are here to support you. You definitely don't have to do any of this alone. Like our 2025 Black Breastfeeding Week theme is not, boots on the ground for nothing. Like a lot, we are out here. We are heavy in the streets advocating for you all, advocating for ourselves. But, I think the main thing is just knowing like you have options, you have support, and like we are out here looking for you to give you help, to give you support, and we can't run our programs, our businesses, our organizations, without you. So you are the why, and like, we are here for you.
Oh, beautiful. Yes, because Black Breastfeeding Week is a reminder that our nourishment is rooted in love, strength, and justice. To our listeners, your stories matter, your journeys are valid, and together we can build a future where every Black mother and baby and family thrive. So until next time, stay rooted, stay nourished, and stay empowered. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jasmine.
Lord have mercy. Alive in the building. I dance on my dance here. You ready? Where them fans at?